going to talk about and renal. Okay, so filtration in the renal corpuscle is, so what happens here is filtration occurs in the renal I can't pronounce it, which includes the glomerulus and the Bowman's capsule. So So the filtration membrane has 3 layers. And the first one is the endothelium of capillaries. And then we have the basement membrane. And then we have the podocytes. This is okay, so filtration is driven by net filtration pressure, which is the balance of glomerular hydrostatic pressure, which pushes fluid out, and capsular hydrostatic pressure, and blood colloid osmotic pressure. Only small molecules like water, ions, glucose, and urea get through, not proteins or blood or cells, because it's very size is a huge thing, and everything has to be super small, from I think it's from like 10 to 15 nanometers. And then like red blood cells is like I think 5,000. So yeah, only 10 to 15. Okay, and now we're gonna talk about reabsorption. And tubules. Okay, so this occurs mainly in the proximal tubule loop of the distal tubule and collecting dust. Okay, so the role of sodium. What it does, it actively is transported using the sodium potassium pump, and then drives reabsorption. Absorption. And then we have glucose and amino acids. And they use secondary actin transport via sodium glucose importers and have a renal threshold. If blood glucose is greater than 180 milligrams. Transfer saturated glucose appears in urine. Yeah. And then we have chloride, which follows the sodium by passive diffusion or particular route. So we have chloride, and then we have calcium, and then calcium is regulated by parathyroid hormone and reabsorbed in distal tubule. And then we have potassium, and this is reabsorbed in the proximal tubule but secreted later in the distal tubule, collecting dust, regulated by by hormone. And then we have H2O. Which is water solutes, so it follows osmosis. And then aquaporins help, especially when ADH is present. More on that. Okay, and then we could talk about GFR. Measures how much, so glomerular filtration rate, this just measures how much filtrate is formed each minute. So filtration measures. And then we have clearance. And this is used to estimate GFR. Creatine or insulin is used because they are filtered but not reabsorbed or secreted. And then we have blood flow regulation via afferent, afferent aortes. Vasodilation increases GFR, vasoconstriction decreases. So vasodilation and then we have so the macula densa and distal senses sodium chloride. If it's too high, it constricts afferent and it lowers GFR. If it's too low, it dilates afferent and raises GFR. And then we have sorry, I'm losing my voice. Okay, so this is triggered by low BP or sodium. So renin, so the effects is vasoconstriction, increases BP. It stimulates aldosterone, sodium and water reabsorption, stimulates ADH, water retention. So, yeah. Okay. So the loop of Henle establishes concentration gradient in vena medulla and decreasing descending limb. Is permeable to water, not solutes. Ascending limb pumps out sodium chloride and permeable to water. The countercurrent multiplier creates salty medulla, drawing water out and collecting duct when needed. We have the DH and aldosterone in urine. Concentration. So ADH inserts aquaporins in collecting dust, water reabsorbed, concentrated urine. Aldosterone increases sodium reabsorption and potassium secretion in the distal tubule. Water follows. Sodium helps raises BP and blood volume. Together, without ADH, it dilutes urine, and with ADH and gradient, it makes urine concentrated. So yeah.